In this episode of Moi TV, I'm focusing in on branding. If you haven't got your branding all organized and in line, then you can't expect your branded headshots to work very well for you. By work, I mean convert online to make you money or increase leads into your business that convert into sales. We want some headshots that stand up against a solid branding background to support all of your messaging and your business goals. For the very best in branded headshots, ideas and inspirations, you should subscribe to Moi TV. To do that, make sure you hit the bell and you're going to be notified every single Friday when a new episode comes out. There's a good chance that you've seen a lot of content online about why a branded headshot is a really good idea for you in your business. But actually, you might still be a little bit unclear on how it's different to a standard headshot. By the end of this episode, I promise you're going to know a lot more about branding, and from that new knowledge, you're going to understand how branding informs a branded headshot. Now, I'm a little bit of a hybrid. So prior to setting up my headshots photography business 8 years ago, I had a past life and a previous career in marketing and public relations. And that makes me special and unique because I'm able to use my old business brain to analyze brands and branding, and then use that to turn on my creative side of my brain to create headshots that are really branded and headshots that really work to convert. I've proven my weird hybrid formula on a lot of previous clients. Maybe you're next in line. It is very easy to go into inspirational overload when you're thinking about planning your own branded headshots photo shoot. Where a lot of people go wrong on this is they head on over to Pinterest, they gather a bunch of ideas, they're not coherent, and then they start to feel a little bit lost about how all of that inspiration could convert into the right headshots ideas for them. But the key thing that they're missing as well is that none of it is grounded in their own branding guidelines and principles. If you haven't got a solid brand figured out, then you cannot expect your branded headshots to have a powerful impact to support a brand at the end of your photo shoot. I'm going to run through a quick fire today on all of the things that you need to know inside and out before you get in touch with a headshots photographer. Sure, this isn't beneficial to me. It actually elongates a sales process and a sales conversation. But I promise you, when you figured out all this jazz before you work with a branded headshots photographer, you can bet good money that the results that they're going to be able to create for you are in fact on brand and will in fact make you more money. Let's start with branding identity. So by this, I want to know, have you got a special symbol in your branding? Is there a logo? Have you got some very well thought out fonts, a font family? Why are those fonts relevant to you? Have you got a set of branding colors? If so, why have you picked those colors? And has all of this information been surmised on a branding guidelines document by a professional graphic designer? When we've got this baseline of information, we can get to work on your brand image. Now, don't get confused. I don't mean photography images. I mean image as in your reputation. This is always one that is really hard for new clients to explain in a coherent way. We all know how we'd like to be perceived, but is that actually happening? How can these new photographs fill your branding gaps? This means the gap between what you've said you're going to do through your branding and how you actually show up in business. Are you confusing people with your branding? Are you collecting qualitative and quantitative data to support your hypothesis on this to prove that you don't have branding gaps? This leads on nicely to brand positioning. This just means the position of the marketplace that you've decided to live in within your whole marketing share. Why have you positioned your brand in that spot in your market share? And does the way it feels to people and the way that it operates actually match that position in the market share? Or have we got some of those gaps that we just mentioned? Do you remember this episode I did on fishy pricing? There's a link up here. Well, this one showed you graphically how market share actually works and how that can affect your pricing. Anyone can use this model in any industry to determine where they're operating, to get a clear understanding of how their brand may need to adapt accordingly. Now, when it comes to branding essentials, what often happens to me as a branded headshots photographer is that a new client will come to me and tell me that they currently operate in one space of the market share, but actually they're looking to use these headshots to help them migrate to a different market share. Usually that involves increasing their prices and tweaking who it is that they're serving. To refer back to the fishy pricing episode, they're stuck with all the other smoked mackerels, and actually they want to be perceived a lot more like a fresh salmon. So it would be my job then to make sure that the headshots we create make them look like they're already a fresh salmon. Link to that episode again if all of these fishy references don't make sense. Now, it's very common that once you've completed your positioning exercise, you realize that actually you're living and operating in a very concentrated area with a load of other competitors who are offering the same stuff at the same price to the same customers. Now, if you're fine with that and you have no interest in changing your position, you probably want to make sure that we get headshots that make you stand out from the rest of your competition, because you're all vying for the same type of attention from the same people. We need to make sure that that really happens for you. Brand differentiation. Can you tell me what makes you so special compared to your competitors in a single succinct sentence? I chatted about this in depth with Rock Your Brand Cole from Pixels Inc. on this show. We did this a while ago, but it's a really good one to watch to find out some more information on this. Knowing exactly what makes you so special in your space can actually prompt a ton of really valuable branded headshots inspiration. You can go and take a look at what the general vogue is right now in headshots in your world. Look at it all with critical eyes and get a sense of what everyone else in your same market space is doing with their headshots. I'm only ever interested in making sure that we make you stand out from the rest of your competition. So I'm all about making sure that your headshots zag when everyone else in your marketplace is zigging together like sheep. Maybe you're a business coach and you want to serve other people who have businesses and operate a little bit online and they're in their 40s. There's no denying you offer the same type of coaching services that a lot of other business coaches specialize in out there around the world. But what about if what makes you different to these other coaches who are also reputable and skilled and experienced, the thing that makes you different is that actually you're really passionate about climbing mountains. Cue a ton of inspiration based on headshots taken outdoors with some sweet little metaphors about climbing towards your dreams and goals. Your business coaching headshots would then stand out a mile from every other business coach who's trying to do the corporate but casual look. Just by pulling out this one tiny piece from your life makes you instantly a lot more compelling. You can use my Headshots Return on Investment download to quickly find where your current headshots gaps are in your business. To get this, head on over here, click here, and then pop your email in just like this. I'll send you a copy right away. I'm going to put a link to that guide in the show notes as well down here. Let's move swiftly on to brand personality. Do you really know what the personality of your brand is? Okay, how does that differ to you and your personality? You should go and check out this episode of Brand Muse hosted by Philip Van Dusen, when me and him got into this in detail, specifically focusing in on how you create a personal brand and how you need to make sure that that's actually different to your real life, true, authentic self. A great way to test yourself on this is to answer this question. Are you able to explain to me in 1 or 2 sentences the things that you do go into detail on through your personal branding, and mention to me in brief the things that you will never cover that are actually a real part of your real 100% authentic life? If you can answer that, you haven't got a personal brand, baby. So when you're out climbing those mountains then, are you doing it with dogged determination, or are you a lot more calm and cool and you always maintain your composure no matter how hard the mountain climb is? What I'm saying here is, do you show up like Eddie the Eagle, or are you a little bit more like Bear Grylls? Do you see how this slight shift in personality could dramatically change the result of a branded headshot session? Brand experience. How does it actually feel to customers when they experience being involved with your brand? A little bit similar to branding gaps, a lot of clients will find it very hard to explain this to somebody new, like a headshots photographer. My most successful clients come to me with hard data on this because they're continuously measuring how they're being perceived and how they want to be perceived, and understanding how they can loop that and close the gap to make the brand experience a lot more coherent and exactly as how they want it to. Have you got something like this in place? Now this can range from having real life moles who go out and start conversations about you and then gather impartial data on how people actually perceive your brand, to something that's a lot more simple like social listening or a feedback survey. Moving into brand communication. What tone of voice are you using to explain what it is that you do to the customers in your market share? How exactly are you communicating this? What tools are you using? What media are you using? And then this would lead on to me asking, is there a really clever way that we can explain all of the answers to those questions in a single photograph that has been jam-packed full of narrative? A great example of using this effectively would be to make sure that next to that big long chunk of text that you have on the About Us page or the About Me page on your website, you also have a branded headshot that explains all of those words in one single image. If the photograph is good enough, it will explain all of those words. What are your brand extension plans? Bigger, more established brands often look to creating sub-brands to expand their reach and serve a different market in a different way. Adding this into the mix when we're doing our research and planning stages of your headshots can actually be a really cost-effective way to make sure that we future-proof any work that we create. A great way of thinking about this is thinking about the Facebook brand. Facebook have done a lot of sub-brands as a way to reach more people in lots of different ways in online communities. They acquired Instagram and they kept that branding there. They added Messenger, they launched Watch, they created pages, and they let us have groups, and they built out a whole new advertising element to the Facebook brand. If you've got these kinds of ideas on your world domination plan and you're planning on doing it in the next few years, you have quite a clear vision of what that looks like, make sure you do mention it when you're creating your brand to your branding designer, and make sure that that information is passed on to your branded headshots photographer. There are ways that you can make space to make sure that future headshots that you have actually go with the older headshots, and this can have a really solid effect on making that original hub brand work well with this bespoke sub brands. If you don't do this and you hire a photographer or you hire lots of different photographers in a piecemeal approach, you can't be surprised that in 5 years' time, people will start to get confused about how it is that you show up. It's going to muddy the waters. Finally, your branded headshots should support your brand equity. Do you know how much clout your branding really has? Would you be in a position where you could convert the value of your brand equity into pounds and pence or dollars and cents? Now, if you can't answer those questions yet, you are probably at the earlier stages of working with branding in the right way. And a good way to think about brand equity is to do it in an introspective way. By that, I mean looking inside your business. You want to be asking yourself, in what way can branded headshots support what it is that I do right now in my business and make those things work better? That's what a good branded headshots photographer is going to be analyzing for you when we're at the planning stages of your branded headshots session. Now, before you go anywhere, don't forget to subscribe. Mwah!